This is Miss Lizzie, and I want to welcome you to the Queen Lizzie podcast. Together, we will go through the history of Rosewood, Florida, and watch as the once prosperous town rises out of the bloodshed, fire, and ash to reveal the people, the memory, and the legacy of Rosewood. Watch every Thursday on Facebook and YouTube, or listen to our story on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Hello, everybody. I am Lizzie Robinson Jenkins, representing not only the Rosewood Foundation, but the personal testimonies and history of cherished friends and family. You are now watching the Queen Lizzie podcast. Today, we are talking with Abby Reichardt. Welcome, Abby, to Queen Lizzie podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really a treat, and it's my favorite subject.
You are welcome, and I am honored, and it is really special for me because of your subject matter today. Midwives. Mm-hmm. Okay, would you like to tell us, give us a brief history of what you do?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So midwives, essentially, we've been around throughout time, mm-hmm. and we oftentimes will refer to ourselves as the ones that hold space at a birth, keep space, and of course catch babies. And oftentimes people say, oh, you catch them and you don't deliver them. Yeah, the moms deliver them and we catch them.
Okay.
And throughout the more recent history, midwives in the past 100 years kind of took a dip as birth went away from the home space for the first time ever into a more like hospital or clinic space or birth center space. And in about the 70s, there became a point where there was more interest in less intervention. Also at this time, hospital births were pretty interventive. That's not quite the same as it used to be, but you kind of you were alone, your partner, husband, whoever waited down in the waiting room. You know, you're in a very sterile environment, and some people were ready to kind of take that power back and be able to give birth in the positions they wanted with the labor support from their partner or whomever that they wanted, and just a little more autonomy. So that's what we offer present day is, I have a practice called the Midwives Cooperative, and our practice does home births. So we don't have a birth center, but plenty in the state of Florida do. And we're Florida licensed midwives, which are different than the nursing track. So there's certified nurse midwives that go to nursing school, get a master's, and then specialize in midwifery. We're licensed midwives, and in the state of Florida, we're recognized, we're licensed, credentialed, insured, all of that. And we basically go to a state-approved program where instead of getting a really broad nursing degree and then specializing, we specialize from the start. So, midwifery school is giving you everything you need, the hard sciences, but then jumping right into pregnancy or antenatal care and intrapartum or birth care, and then postpartum and newborn as well.
Okay, you gave us the name of your company.
Yeah.
Do you, will you give us the address if someone wants to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we just moved. So it's, let me think, this is going to be a good test. 3510 Northwest 8th Avenue here in Gainesville, 32605. But we just moved, and it's really centrally located. And I think one of the really strong tenets of our practice, and many other midwifery practices do this too, is that we really try to make it accessible. So Medicaid is accepted.
Yes.
We have sliding scale. We are more interested in everybody having a midwife and having really good care than whether or not we can afford it. And we're not paid in eggs and ham anymore, although
Let me tell you about the eggs and the hams. I'm a midwife, baby. Am I saying it right? Midwife, baby?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, my midwife was Mitty Clayton in Archer many years ago, and that is exactly how we paid her. eggs, chicken,
Yeah.
okay, ham,
Yeah.
sweet potato, vegetables, whatever we grew on the farm. And I had you laughing a minute ago. And moonshine. Everybody
Yeah.
made moonshine back then. So she was paid with moonshine too, because the moonshine was used to
Be an anesthetic or
Yes.
numbing and taking the
Yes.
edge off of the birth.
Exactly. And I was born, and I tell my mom, I used to tell her, I said, Mom, I remember when I was born, and I would tell her the people that was there, she would say, shut up. This is hearsay. But I was born in the kitchen, October 25th, 1938, and it was cold at 9 a.m. And my mom said when I was born, my dad was standing right there, and whomever spanked me, and whatever they're supposed to do to get me breathing
Yeah.
new life, and said, Dad took me to the back step to the porch. We didn't have porch. Stepped at the back of the house and held me up and said, God bless my baby. And I would tell her, I said, oh, Mom, I remember that. And she said, you don't remember. But I've heard the story so many times.
Right.
Yeah, so those were the days back then, because now we have hospitals, or we have people like you know, that's concentrating in being a midwife. But I like that era, because the parents back then would breastfeed their kids,
Yeah.
you know. They didn't have any formula and that kind of thing.
Too expensive.
Too expensive.
Too many bottles to wash.
Exactly. Those were the good old days. And you were telling me a minute ago about a book here in Alachua County, and it speaks about midwives.
Yes, ma'am. And I just realized I may even have my little reference point here, but if I can't easily find it, I can share it in maybe your website or somewhere. It's
Posted.
yeah.
Okay.
It's fascinating. It yeah.
And I want your website address too.
Yes, ma'am.
I will post it on my Facebook page. That's what we're here to help each other and to educate each other.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And it is like, you know, I'm in the phase right now where actually I would say rarely were midwives my age doing this work and still having children at home. So back, you know, in community birth, traditional midwifery, before credentialing and education, when you just were one, you often were past having your own children, so you actually had the time, because when you were raising your kids and keeping house, you know, maybe you could help a little bit. But also, at that point, you and all of your friends have had all these babies. You got the most experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we'd
Exactly.
say, you know, the old training was seen one, had one, caught one.
Yes.
That was your midwifery credential.
Exactly. And when your mom, her mother is Janice Owens, Janet Johnston Owen. And when her mother told me about Liz, my daughter is a midwife, the first thing came out of my mouth was, do you think she'd like to come on my show?
Yes.
And that's exactly what she said. And talk about our midwives, because that means a lot to me and to my growing up during my era.
Yeah.
There were only midwives. And I have some Archer midwives. And if you're listening to me and you're from Arch, you may remember some of these. I have two great-grandmothers that were midwives. Lucy Cotman, she was Lucy Cotman McIntyre was one. And then the one that came from Mississippi many years ago, born 1826, her name is Julianne Sams. And there was Miss Etta Martin. These are Archer people. Ann Robinson, another grandmother. Okay, Rose Means. Okay, Sylvia Boykin, Florence Wood, as I said, Mitty Clayton, Carrie Robinson, Etta Banks, and I've already said Julianne Sam. I wanted to share that because I want the people that may not know or have forgotten, please go to our website and listen to your story. We're here to educate. Yeah.
And in the tradition of midwifery,
I like
speaking our grandmother's name or the grand midwives' names, because particularly in the I would say all across the nation in my research and what I've been able to find, a lot of details about birth were really that were recorded.
Yes.
You know, were maybe in the book of a page of a Bible, birth date,
yes,
crops,
yes.
What the
yes.
crops were doing, what the
yes.
weather was like, and pretty straightforward like that. But there was so many folks that either couldn't read or couldn't write. And so saying it out loud actually gives so much power to it, because we don't want these people to be lost in memory. These are the ones that I'm standing on their shoulders, and they're standing on their grandmother's shoulders. And particularly in the Deep South in Florida, and at large, midwifery was largely eradicated as an act of like racial control. So essentially a lot of the midwives in the South were Black grand midwives and were powerful members of the community. They were influential. And there's a lot of other reasons that birth went toward the hospital, partly for training programs so that doctors could have patients come to them, because that was more realistic than loading up your horse and your supplies and going to these births out in the woods or whatever.
Exactly.
But we lost so much rich culture, and a large part of that, like Black grand midwives that were part of that. So saying their names is powerful.
That is very powerful. And I'm going to print these and put these on my website, because as I told you earlier, my great grandmother was captured in Parchman, Mississippi, brought to Archer. They walked 678 miles, and it took them 6 months. And in between, during that walk, there were babies being born.
Of course.
And she was trained at a young age to deliver a baby on that walk, that enslaved walk. And say their names.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
She was very important to this Archer community.
Yeah.
And I respect her. Didn't meet her, but I feel her energy. I know she was there. Yes. Yes, indeed. So I am so pleased to know that you are here to talk to us about what you call it, midwifery.
Yeah, the midwifery tradition. And you can actually say it either way. Midwifery. I say that. Midwifery, but yeah. And that whole tradition, which now, of course, I joke with people because, of course, we get calls, and home birth can sound like a lot of different things. It can sound like, am I going to be, out in a barn somewhere, like the, Virgin Mary with a manger, which, for the record, if that's what people want, maybe we can work on it. Exactly. We got running water and exactly. all that, but we also these days carry medicines. I'm trained to do neonatal resuscitation. The back of my car is a moving birth center. It's like, I joke with my friends that if someone's ever in labor in traffic and they're having a baby on the side of the road, I will be so prepared to just pull out my suitcase and my stuff right there because I can do it anywhere. So, we've married the medical side of it and keeping people safe and making sure people are low risk, because there are some conditions where we do want you to see a doctor. You've got diabetes or what have you, but yeah, we're kind of marrying that tradition of following the natural rhythms of labor and offering comfort measures outside of anesthesia. I don't carry my moonshine around.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Well, and when somebody hits 41 weeks and they're so been out of shape about whether or not to, what are they going to do for labor? Drinking a glass of wine probably isn't the worst thing they could do to chill them out. But, of course, off the record. Yes.
But, hey, they did what they needed to do.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes. My mother didn't drink, but she did when she was in pain.
Well, it's powerful medicine.
It is.
And so that's the same way using heat and words of affirmation and, low back compression for labor. Yes. And even, so I was able to give birth to both of my children at home. Okay. And having my husband just hold eye contact and breathe with me and hold my hand was so powerful. And that's where I think that the family part of it, how you say how impactful that was to you, that you told your story as if you remembered being the infant held up in the air.
Yes. I still feel that way. But Mom said, no, baby.
No, you don't remember it. And it's the same. My kids have seen the pictures enough times that they'll try to tell me what happened that day. And I'm like, okay sure.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm not the only one.
No.
Okay.
And with such pride. It makes it a family event that's powerful.
And I would tell her, I said, my Grandma Ada was there. Grammy. we call her Grandma Ada. That's my dad's mom. She said, yeah. I said, Aunt Eula was there? She said, yes, but you were not there. You were there, but you don't remember this. Right. Because people would gather, other wives would be there, mothers would be there, to
preparing the meals.
Exactly. And taking care of the other kids.
That's it. That's the big one.
Yes. So it was like a festival. Okay, but it was a good experience. Okay.
That's wonderful.
All right. That's about time for our first half. We are going to head to a quick break, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
I am Black History.
I am Rosewood Black History. I am Florida and America's Black History, and you are too.
January 1st, 1923, the KKK insurrectionists attacked Rosewood, killing 5, burning it down.
Because a white woman lied and cried, a black man assaulted me. Rosewood redevelopment is on its way.
Want to help? Visit rosewoodflorida.com.
Welcome back to Queen Lizzie Podcast, brought to you weekly from the Steve Spurrier Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We are here with Abby Reichardt. The Queen Lizzie Podcast is brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union, live from the Meldon Law Gator Studios at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Speaking of Spurrier Gridiron Grill, I'm going to send a shout out to him for his courtesy, his understanding, his support for the Rosewood history. He has been a champion for Rosewood history. And when you are not busy, or even when you are busy, don't have anything else to do, please patronize him. Each weekend they do a brunch, Sunday and Saturday, from 11 to 3 p.m. It is the best. Okay, so when you get here, just tell them I sent you. I'm not paying, but just tell them I recommend this place highly because the food is delicious. Also, I want to remind you that my birthday is birthday celebration fundraiser, Rosewood fundraiser birthday celebration is October 23rd on a Wednesday night here at Steve Spurrier, the Visor Rooftop. You are welcome to participate. We need the funds to build our Rosewood Museum that will be built in Orchard 2025 or 2026, but we need your donation. So come out and celebrate with us. Enjoy what we are doing to keep the history of Rosewood alive. And as I tell people, it is not about me. It is not about you. It's about keeping America's history alive. My mom said, because my mom, our sister was a school teacher, she survived. My mother said, keep that history alive. But baby, tell it positively. You are not going to attack anyone because the people you are sharing the history with today did not live back then. So you can't accuse them of what happened. It's history. It's ugly history. Just keep it alive, because if we don't remember, okay, we will repeat it. So unless we remember, our kids will not understand. And when I say kids, I'm talking about all children. This history is for all people. And another reason why I respect Steve Spurrier and Freddie Wiebe is because they are big time supporters. They are great supporters of history. And as long as I tell the truth, I will continue to come back and talk about Rosewood. So you can find us at rosewoodflorida.com. That's www.rosewoodflorida.com. You may donate to our scholarship. We give a scholarship annually, 5 scholarships to 5 children. And our scholarships are for kids from Levy County and Alachua County. And we do not make sure they are, well, I can't even think. But anyway, we give white scholarships. I can't think of the term. And black, to black students also. Diverse. That's the word I was looking for. Our scholarships are diverse because it's all about children. And we have to close the racial divide somewhere. So, as I said, donate and remember us. Okay? So, I'm back with Abby. I'm back with Abby, and Abby is going to take it from here and discuss whatever you want to. If you have, if you remember something else you want to talk about, it's up to you.
Sure.
Okay, so go forth.
Well, you were actually speaking to something that I think a lot about with midwifery on a bigger scale. A few things, actually. So early childhood education, or any education, starts in the womb and goes all the way throughout. You know, the fascinating thing that children that are in utero with German-speaking parents are going to laugh like a German when they're born, and you know, if they're country girl like me, they're gonna have a drawl, and all of that early language that is the foundation for kids to, you know, just not only thrive in school, but unlock information through being able to have like competent literacy. And what does that really mean? It's not just, listening to your parents read books and all of that is so important, but having families with children where we are promoting a secure attachment bond. And that also means people that are able then to feel emotionally sound as kids grow. Yes, sure, they're being read to, but they're also being fed and nurtured and taken care of. If a kid even has one person in their life to do that, it's so impactful. But midwifery, a big part of what we do is, you know, not just the mechanics of catching the baby. We're talking throughout visits. We're letting the toddlers up to the table and handing them the Doppler so that they can measure and listen to the baby's heartbeat of their little sibling, and integrating all of that. And it seems silly, you know, in some ways, or maybe just obvious, but the hormone oxytocin, so we all produce this. All mammals have it. And it's the love hormone. It's the bonding hormone. The highest levels that peak off the charts are during pregnancy, and particularly during birth, and then postpartum as well. So it causes contractions in addition to all the bonding and the love and intimacy and all of that we have, whether or not somebody is a man or woman. And labor, contractions, afterwards milk letdown and production. And it simply can be stimulated by a comfortable, calm situation, promoting breastfeeding or skin to skin. That bond and that link is so integral. I mean, at the core of it, we're mammals, we're primates. Every other mammal on Earth has their babies, and then they clean them off. They get rid of that placenta. They latch and they bond.
Do they sometimes eat the placenta? I think
cats do. All mammals, often mammals do. And so there are also people that there are people that will choose to eat their placenta, or the more popular thing is these days to have it processed and put into capsules like a supplement.
Really?
Yeah, it's called placenta encapsulation.
Are you serious? What's the purpose of it?
I'm very serious. What?
What's the purpose of?
Well, okay, so it's not like just like any supplement. It's not regulated by the FDA, obviously. It's like people's own thing. But the thought is energy, a withdrawal from those hormones slowly. So whenever when your placenta leaves your body, that's when your body is not pregnant anymore, according to your brain. That's the hormonal outpost. When it's gone, your body says, okay, we're not pregnant, baby's here, we start nursing, we're going into postpartum hormones, and everything's changing very fast. With the placenta, like encapsulation, or if people ingest some of it, it can help kind of keep the nutrients because it's
Right.
basically like a liver. I mean, and it is, some people would also think it's very gross to do this. So we have
Yes.
all types, all
Yes,
types of
yes,
people,
yes.
but it can also help with milk production. And then
Yes.
the mood side of titrating the hormones slowly, where you're not having that huge drop off and feeling those baby blues as hard. You can kind of have that like slowly go down. And yes, energy. So
Yes, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
it's,
Energy.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, and it's interesting because there's so much oxytocin in the placenta itself. Pitocin is what we give somebody after birth if they have a bleed. And Pitocin is a synthetic form of oxytocin. The old grand midwives and everybody knew long, long ago that if somebody was having a heavy bleed, besides doing some of the like massaging and stuff that we're doing to the belly, give them a piece of the placenta, they're going to get oxytocin or Pitocin and help that uterus go down. And so it sounds, it's like, oh, it sounds kind of gross, but also these are old world remedies and Chinese medicine. Placentas are used,
Yes, yes,
seems
yes.
wild to us, but
Yes.
but anyway. No, but yeah,
Yes.
so like that bonding, that connecting makes strong families. And they don't have to be perfect families. I don't mean your 2.5 kids and everybody smiles for the picture. We serve clients from all different backgrounds, all different types, single parents, same-sex couples, all sorts of people. And that core of a child having a safe spot to land and that secure attachment literally affects the rest of their lives.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I remember, I don't remember, my mom said, my grandmother, my dad's mom, had 6 boys. And at one time, they were like 2 weeks apart before birth. And we grew up on a farm and everybody had to work. So they would switch off, and switch off may not be a good word, but it's for the people that understand what I'm saying. One mother would stay at home
Yes.
and make sure she breastfed all
Yes.
of the kids, while the other
Yes.
that did not or had not had their given birth yet would work in the fields.
Yep,
And it was
Yep.
community bonding.
absolutely.
Yes.
And
yes.
that it takes a village.
To raise a
It
child.
really, it
Yeah.
really was that. And,
Yes,
at that time too, back in the day, and this is where it's nice that we have this like marriage of the traditional side of midwifery, but also some of the medicines, being able to suture, being able to manage bleeding, being able to go to a hospital if something has become out of my scope at home, for sure. But that old tradition of kind of letting everybody have a role, and in a time and era where life expectancy was shorter,
Yes.
risks were higher.
Yes.
And so, you would, besides the fact that the crops had to be harvested, when the
I
crops
know.
had to be harvested, some kids didn't live past 3. That wasn't uncommon. And from things from like strep throat. Or,
Exactly.
it wasn't, just antibiotics were not on the scene until the 1930s. So,
True.
yeah.
True.
And even pain relief that's used today for birth, which is most commonly an epidural, and people get that really became available as a result of plastic tubing and IV tubing, not just the medications, because those were around before, and chloroform was kind of used, which was very rudimentary, but all of those big changes that kind of swung the pendulum the other way. And then we realize, hold on. So now we're at a point where we spend more per capita on birth in this country than anywhere in the world.
Yes.
Yeah. Like the
Yes.
princesses in England have cheaper births than any
Yes.
person on the street in the United States
In
would
the
have.
United States. Yes.
Exactly. And we have all sorts of resources, lots of, education, highly skilled. And yet our maternal mortality rates and our infant mortality rates are not great by a long shot. And also disproportionately affect BIPOC people. So, biracial, interracial, indigenous folks. 4 times as much, their maternal mortality rate is affected that much. So being able to have Black providers and be able to connect all of these dots and pull it not all the way back out of the hospital, but a marriage and an integration of midwifery and medicine. It's good for the families. It's good for the breastfeeding rates.
Okay.
It's good for my business. I'm just kidding.
No. Hey, this is a real show.
Yeah.
It's not professional, but we get the message out.
Yeah.
And my last question
Sure.
to you, what inspired you to become a midwife?
Okay. So I, as young as I could remember at church, wanted to get my hands on anybody's baby that would let me near them. I wanted to hold that baby. I wanted to rock it and feed it. And so that was my first inkling. And then I thought, well, only nurses and doctors can do this. So in school, I started towards nursing, thinking I'd work in labor and delivery, and then took a different path, realized it wasn't for me, and then found traditional midwifery and realized, this is what I was looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it was always right in there. And
Yes.
then having my children reaffirm that for me.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you would like to?
I don't think so. I'm just so grateful that you had me come on. And, we have a midwifery school here in town. I guess I would just plug that really quickly.
Yes,
It's called the Florida School of Traditional Midwifery. It's at 810 East University Avenue. Midwiferyschool.org is the website. But that's where I was trained.
Okay.
And we just went to a graduation yesterday. We have 8 more beautiful graduated midwives, and they practice all over the state. They drive to Gainesville from as far as Miami. We've had people from Pensacola.
Wonderful.
So we're still out there, little by little, training and passing these traditions along. So
Okay, wonderful. I am continuously humbled, honored, and blessed to meet people daily and invite them to join in peace building, healing, and reconciliation through learning about the history of Rosewood. That will wrap up today's episode. I am Queen Lizzie. Until next time, this is my Rosewood story, and I'm sticking to it.